Testing audio. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Facebook Live event this evening. Tonight, we're going to discuss Variety Locator with our displays utilizing our technology in the Operations Center. Um, Hopefully, you all get something out of this tonight. If you have any questions along the way, my precision team is here with me this evening and they will be answering questions that show up in the comment section. If there's any of those questions that need to be discussed during this event, we will definitely do that at our questions segment. So please feel free to type in anything you want on the questions that you need help with, and we'll see if we can help you guys out. So we wanted to cover variety locator and setting up the combines for this fall. There seems to be some confusion on that. A lot of guys think they can take the display out of the planting tractor and just bolt it in the combine and variety locator will work, which is not true. The other thing we've noticed is combine operators, a lot of times we're not the guys planting the field and they do not know what varieties are actually in the field they're harvesting. And what happens is we've planted one variety and then we told the combine we harvested another one. So we have some inaccurate data coming in. Variety Locator is a great tool for helping operators and farmers to figure out what varieties provided the best potential for the fields that they're in. So we feel that this is very important information to get correct. So one of the first challenges we have to cover today is to validate that all of our planting data has came in to the operations center. So it's real simple to figure that out. If you know how many acres you believe you planted, if you go in the operations center and click the field icon that's underneath of the tractor there up in the top left-hand corner, you will see your field list populate. Over to the right, before we open this up, there's a summary tab. When you click it, your screen will look like what you see on this picture here. And what you're going to notice there is it's going to show you the crop that you're looking at. And to the right, you're going to see the total acres. In this case, it was 400.94 acres. Now down below, you see the three different colors. In this particular application, this operator had planted three different varieties. Now, just to give you guys an FYI, we planned on doing this live out of the operations center tonight, but apparently a construction company decided to cut a major internet connection between John Deere and the East Coast about 5 hours ago. So we're using some screenshots out of the system. So if you're wondering why we're not doing that or why you guys at home can't follow through on your system, that's why. It's probably going to take the rest of the night for them to repair that. So we're using screenshots here that we've put together for this evening's presentation. But anyway, back to presentation. So the summary tab opens up and lets you know which varieties are there and how many acres. So if something isn't here, we know to go in the system and look for the missing data, because if it's not in here, Variety Locator will not work for those fields that are missing. Okay, so once we validated that all of our information is in our account, and we're going to be under the assumption here that the data was either loaded with a USB stick or came in on wireless data transfer from the planting tractor. Once again, if you have a 2630 display in the tractor, a lot of common mistakes that are made is the operator will finish planting the last field and they won't change the field name to a different name before they put it in the shed for the summer. And that last field of data will not come in automatically. On the Gen 4 displays, the current display offered by Deere, that display will send in its information automatically. The 2630 display, however, needs to be triggered to send the file by changing the field name to a different name. That triggers the display to send the information. So once again, always validate that all your information is in. Once we know that all that's in, then we're going to go to the tool icon in the top left-hand corner and click it and find the setup builder icon. So when you click that tool icon, you're going to get a list of tools that's in the system for you to utilize. There's a couple different ways to search it, but you can scroll down or you can search it in the search bar up there below the tool icon and just start typing in setup. And you will see the setup builder icon show up. And what we're doing here is we're getting ready to create a setup file to put in the displays of our combine. So you'll go ahead and click that setup builder icon. And when you do, the screen will populate and look like this. And up top, you're going to notice starting from left to the center of the screen, just some tabs across there. And as we start creating this file, it's just going to take us through step by step here to try to keep this very simple and to make sure you don't miss any steps. So the first thing we have to do here is validate the display type. Now tonight means we're talking strictly about 2630s and Gen 4 displays. It's in the current new combines. You're going to hit the drop down box and select that option there by hitting that arrow where the arrow indicator is. And it's the same display type for 2630 as a Gen 4 display. So really you can't mess that up. Down below that is a file name. Now what I like to do here is I like to create a name that makes very much sense to me. So in this case, for instance, we've called this 2020 corn harvest. We're going to need to know that because when this file comes over into the displays of the combines, it makes it very easy to know that that is the file we want in case there is other files in the displays. This helps us to make sure we know that it's fall harvest in the year 2020. Okay. Now below that, you get an option to create a new file or create from existing files. Now I personally like to always create a new file. That way we know it's exactly what we want and we get everything we need in this file. If you look down below on this page, you will see the files that have been created out of this operations center in the last 12 months, and there's dates there. so that you know when them files were created. And once again, that's why I like creating a new one. It just gives us a very clear list of what it is that we're doing currently at the moment. So once we've clicked the create new button and we have our name in there, on the bottom right hand side of the screen, you're going to see a start button. And that start button just means that we're ready to start creating the file to go into the Combine display. So we'll click that. And when you do, you notice up top the tab switched over to the land icon. And that means now that we're going to pick all the farms and fields that we want to load in the display that are valuable to us for Variety Locator. So if you notice up top in the, about a few inches over, you're going to see a select assets, and right below that is the word name. To the left of that's a little square box. If you click that, it's going to load all of the farm and fields that you have in your operations center. Okay. Now you can do it all, or if you want to be specific, in the middle of the screen, you'll see where it says client and farm. So there'll be a whole list of names there. And maybe you want to be selective, but most of the time I just send them all in. All the way over to the right at the top, you're going to see a red arrow pointing to include variety locator. Now this is very important that you put a check mark in there. Once you do that, under the word crop, all the farm and fields are going to populate with the data from the planter. So whether you planted corn or sorghum or soybeans, it's going to tell you in each field what the information was. If for some reason you did not farm that field this year or the data is missing, you notice there's an example up there that says no data for the last 12 months. And what that means is it's not seeing any seeding planting data at all for the year 2020. Okay. So if you think there's supposed to be something there, we need to go back to the display and see if it's there and find it before we create this file. But a lot of times that you'll see that information if the field's just a test field or you cleaned something out or just created a wrong field name. But most of the time, if you notice under field one, the crop there says corn, okay? That lets you know that variety locator is going to see that corn there. Now, some of the first questions folks asked is I planted corn in this field, and then a week or two later, I had to go back and do some replant of corn, and it's a different variety. What's going to happen there? So the system will automatically recognize that replant, and when you create this file, if you had initially one variety in there and you replanted a few acres of a different one, Variety Locator will already register that and correct that while the combine is going through the field. So once you have a variety locator picked and you're looking at all the crops, the only other thing that happens sometimes is under crop. If you happen to have, for instance, soybeans and corn in the same crop, you're going to get a square rectangle box over there, like where that word corn is. And it's going to make you pick which crop you want variety locator to work for. So we have to create these files based on one crop. Okay, we'll get to more of that in a minute, but you need to select, for instance, corn for right now, if you have an option. And then we'll come back later and pick the other crops. Once you've completed this page here, we'll go to the bottom of the page to the right and hit the next. And once again, up top, you'll see now the equipment tab is lit up. And this is an important tab also. So one thing you want to do here is make sure that your piece of equipment is showing up in this screen. So what I mean by that is if you've traded combines or using a different combine, or maybe you've added a combine to your fleet, it's important that we add that piece of equipment in here and know that it's there. If we don't, sometimes the displays get confused and will not allow you to properly set them up if this is missing. Okay, so in this case, we have our 780 combine up top, and we're going to select that to go into the display because that's what we're going to run. Now you'll notice up top a little bit farther where the word machine is to the right of it, there's a tab that says implement. After you pick your combines, you'll need to click the implement and you need to make sure once again that you have the correct head. So your corn head, maybe your flex draper or your flex platform, go ahead and select those for the combine display. And once again, make sure they're the correct ones and that they're the right widths. So keep in mind that the implements automatically adjust track spacing for auto track. So if you used to have an 8-row head, for instance, and you traded up to a 12-row head, we may need to go into the equipment profiles and edit that so it comes into your display properly. Okay. Also, keep in mind that the vehicles we pick on this page, if they're running JD Link with wireless data, the files are going to go to those machines, and we'll discuss that here in just a few minutes more. But over to your right, you notice how it'll automatically give you the status of the machines on this list. That is real nice to look at in case you see a problem, like in this case, the 780 says that there's no wireless data transfer. We know right away that there's an issue there, and we need to address that at a different time. Um, so anyway, pick your correct combine, pick the correct corn head, grain tables, whatever the case you may be here by just putting check marks next to them. Once you have all those selected, go ahead to the bottom of the screen to the right-hand side and click the next button. Now, once again here, a lot of this customer systems, they look just like this. So John Deere is hooked to most all seed, brands, varieties, chemicals, and fertilizers. And you can populate this by clicking the add product at the bottom and preloading your whole system for which you are farming with this year. So all your seeds, all your chemicals, okay? In this case, we only have one variety in here. We have noticed, however, that even if you don't have them populated here, Variety Locator will work just fine. This system here will not automatically bring product names from the display. You have to add them in here initially and then load them out to the display. So in this case also, we don't care about chemicals, of course, for the combine. So over to the left-hand side in the black, that is a filter. And here you see an example, we have the variety checked. And what that does, it allows only the seed varieties to come over into our setup file. The chemicals and fertilizers and things we do not need to load in a combine display. So once you've selected that, you'll just go to the bottom right hand side of the page again, and you'll click the next button. And here is an operators page. Now this is an optional page. If you want operators names in here, you can certainly just go in here and at the bottom of the screen, add in the operator names you want. This seems to be more important for guys that are running sprayers and have licenses. But if you have a team of operators on your farm and you really want to know who is running the machine, this just gives you a place to put that. However, it is an option. It is not necessary. You can just skip this step if you so choose to. So once you decided what you would like to do here, you can just go to the bottom right-hand side of the screen again and hit next. And what you're seeing here now is just basically a summary page that basically says the display type you're going to put it in, which in this case is a Gen 4 display, and that the name is there. And then it's going to go to some equipment with wireless data transfer enabled. And you should be fine here. Once you see this page, you can edit the file, but I would suggest you don't. Most likely you have everything properly done here. If you thought you may have missed something, you can go to the top of the page and click one of those tabs up top, and it will directly take you back to that page you were on. So for example, if you missed a product, you could click the product page and add another variety in or so forth. Okay. So once you validate that your file is fine here on the summary page, you just go to the bottom right hand side where the red arrow is again, and you click the Create File button. And once you do that, the system will automatically generate the file and it will automatically send that file to all the machines that you had selected in the equipment. So if you have 1, 2, or 3 combines possibly, that file will go out to all of them automatically. There's nothing else you need to do. And whether it's a 2630 display or a Gen 4 display, the file will go out to them. So the next question is, okay, now what do? I sent the file to the display. How do I know it's there? So what we're going to do on this screen first is we're going to use the Gen 4 display as an example. And if you notice up top where the red arrow is pointing, you see an icon there of a piece of paper, it looks like, with an arrow. And basically what that means is that this display has received a file from your Operations Center account. And if you touch that area with your finger, when you do, the next screen that you will see will come up and called File Manager. Now, File Manager is just a place for you to bring files in or out of the display. In this case, we want to bring in the file, okay? So the display, as you see, is recognizing that there is a file that has not been imported yet from your My John Deere account, okay? And that is the file that we just created. So in this case, we're going to click the next button and we're going to navigate through and tell the display to pick the files that we sent it. As you're creating the setup in this display, when you get to the varieties, you're going to touch the variety and you're going to get this page here that shows up. Now, once again, here's a very common mistake a lot of operators make. If they don't know that there's a variety map, they may not come here and they may select single variety and actually type in a wrong variety. Okay. If you do that, the combine then thinks that that's the variety you're picking. If you notice, if there's a variety locator file in the system will default and highlight that variety locator map for you. But you want to check here and see that the icon is selected there to the left of the variety locator map. Okay. Once you do that, then you click on the white rectangle box there. And when you do that, your selection will show up. In this case, it was 2020 corn. Okay. So when you pick that, you can now see the preview of the variety locator map. So in this example, this field is completely planted with one variety, an H4692R. If there was multiple varieties in this field, you would get different colors and the list of varieties and the color legend would prompt you in there. This is a great way to know before you ever went to the field that this display has accepted your setup file and your variety locator file is in the display and ready to go. The other thing I would highly recommend while we're on the screen is make sure that the audible tone and the visible notification icons are checkmarked. This helps an operator, so if he's busy navigating the turn rows or watching the corn head, that he will get an audible or a visible notification on the display just to let him know that the variety has changed wherever the combine's at and that it's working properly. Once you've seen this and you hit the OK button at the end, your display is ready to operate. So your variety locator information will come in properly and the display will know where all your varieties are and where they're at. Okay. And it's that simple on a Generation 4 display. Now, if you have a 2630 display in your combine, it's a little bit different. So there's no on the home page anything to tell you that the file's there. Sometimes you may get a file icon where the clock is on the bottom right hand side to tell you a file's in or a file's out. A lot of times that gets missed because somebody touches the screen. In order to see that your file is really there, what you'll have to do is navigate to the memory tab section. And the way you get there is you hit menu and then GS3, and then you'll select the memory tab up top. And when you do, you'll get this screen. And what you're seeing here is a screen that looks like it's cut in half. And the reason it is the bottom half is the file server for the wireless data transfer. And you'll notice in this example, there is a file sitting there that says the status is ready to use. And you'll see the date and time it was sent to this display. So that'll give you a prompt to that if that is the correct one. If there's multiple files in here, there will be other ones there, but you will be able to use the date and time to know. Also, if you look to the left under the word name, you will see that it says Demo Variety Locator. That is the file name, if you remember, that we created back in the Operations Center when we were creating this file. Now, a lot of people under the word type, that gets a little confusing. That arrow with the dot, that is John Deere's indication of a setup file. Okay, so just so you know what that is. But anyway, to utilize this file, what we'll do next is we'll just touch that file. And when we touch that file, the screen will transition to the next setup page, and it will look something like this. So if you notice that the screen comes up and asks you to select a profile name, and in this case, there's the name of our profile again. And as I said earlier, if there is multiple files in this display from previous, this is where you'll want to make sure that you're picking the correct one. Now, once you pick that, you'll click the Apply Setup button in the middle of the screen. Once you do that, the display will act the same as if you put a USB stick in it, and the file will load into the display. Okay, so once that happens, you will go through and you will pick your client farm field. You will check your equipment, tell it that you have the right corn head on it, and all of that pre set up stuff. When you have all that done, you'll click the documentation tab, letter I on the right, and you will see this page show up. And this is our documentation page that we need to set up properly for the combine in order to record the information. So when we're here, we're going to go ahead and click the change harvest setting icon there up top. And when we do, the page will change and look like this. So a lot of times when there's a variety locator file in the display, it will now do exactly like you see it here. I would recommend that you undo the check marks out of the variety locator and change tone. And when that happens, those three boxes above will turn white and allow you to pick stuff. I personally like to pick the crop type corn and then just pick any brand and any variety that may be in the display. Once you do that, then I recheck variety locator and changing audible tone. So once again, the display will alert you when it sees a different variety. But in this display, the way you know that the variety locator file is there, if you notice to the right of the check mark next to variety locator, it clearly tells you that a locator file is okay for this field. So if you have selected a field that you know has corn in it, for example, that should have a variety file, this information should show up. If you do not have a field with variety locator set up properly or a wrong field picked, let's just say it's in something else, the variety locator file okay for this field words will not be present on this screen. And when that happens, we need to go back and see why that is. But if you see these words there, then we know for certain that the variety locator file is ready to go. Now, earlier, when we were doing the setup, I told you that we had to pick corn, for example, because we could only bring one crop in at a time. Okay. Now, if you are going to want variety locator to work for corn and beans, it will in this case, except for fields that have corn and beans in the same field. So if you planted half of the field in corn and half of the field in beans, for example, the display will not be able to tell the difference and will only work for one crop. So what you would have to do is go back in the operations center and create a second setup file. And this time in those boxes, pick soybeans instead of corn. Resend it out to your equipment once you do that. On the Gen 4 display, the files will merge and that display will be able to identify corn and beans in the same field and work perfectly fine. On a 2630 display, it cannot decipher that. So what you have to do is if you're going to harvest corn, you would load the setup file in just like we've previously discussed. If you decide that you're going to unhook the corn head, put your grain table on, and harvest soybeans, and you have a 2630 display, what you will have to do then is accept in your file that you set up for beans. So once again, that's why I'm very careful with how I name my files. In this case, this was just a demonstration for tonight's event. But what I would do is I would have called that file or corn and another file beans to make it very clear to the operator which one to pick. If you have wireless data transfer, you can keep switching between the files and reloading the display and don't have to worry about having a USB stick in the machine with you. Doesn't hurt a thing, okay? But you can only have one crop at a time that's in the same field for variety locator to work. So a lot of times that only happens in two or three fields of the entire operation, and some guys don't worry about it. But if you really want to know your soybeans and your corn variety, you'd have to have two separate files for that display. Okay. Otherwise, it's that simple. This display here we're looking at now would be properly set up. You could hit the home button, and when the combine went to the field, it would go ahead and operate properly. Okay. Now, with that being said, we're just going to take a quick pause right here. I'm going to look and see if there's any questions that come in on the comment page. If there is, hopefully some of them have been answered already. After this, we're just going to change briefly to a couple other quick subjects for the night before we close out. So just give me just a second and we're going to look and see if there's any questions that we need to answer while we're on here live that we need to discuss with everybody. Okay, we're back on now. So if there's any questions other than what's come in so far, please feel free to add them in. This will be a recorded Facebook page, so you'll be able to go back and revisit this again. There is a help icon on the Operations Center also that will help you if you need this. More information, you can either rewatch this again or use the help menu. Also, feel free to contact us with any questions on this. Um, Other than that, that ends that part of the conversation. Now, what I'd like to do is jump ahead to a different subject here just for a second. And a lot of guys just don't want to deal with setting up displays, managing data, setting up their My John Deere account. So here's just an example of something that we offer. Now we have multiple different setups for customers. Seems like every customer has their own situation that they need assistance with or not. This here is just an example of a package that we do for a lot of customers that just want us to do everything on their vehicles. Notice that we come to your farm 3 times, do 2 displays, and of course we can do more. Or if you just need a little bit of help, we can certainly customize a documentation package just for you. We feel it's just very important to try to get this information in your system correctly so that you can make great management decisions on the seed varieties that you select to purchase while the early order programs are going on this fall. So this would just be an example. And like I said, there is other things that we can do and customize things just for you. On the other hand, if you're concerned about wireless data transfer, don't know if you have it or not, we certainly be glad to help you understand that and what that inquires. If you have machines that are capable of wireless data transfer and you've let the subscriptions expire, or you don't know what controller you have in them, there is a inexpensive solution here that we've come across. Um, Granular, as you well know, is purchased by Pioneer, and they are offering some free items for us. If you simply go on Granular Insights and create an account, you have that's real simple to do, and it will link directly to your My John Deere account. Now, we're going to cover this a little more in our next event that we have, but basically, this gives you profit and revenue generation maps of your farm and fields and all of your inputs. The Insight software is free to use. So if you go on, it takes you maybe 10 minutes to set this account up and it's free. Once that happens, if you contact your local John Deere Land Tractor dealer and tell them what you're doing, we create a voucher for you. They will give you for free a JD Link Connect mobile controller kit that we can upgrade your equipment with, or they will pay for yearly subscriptions on your equipment and give you up to 5 of them. So if you have no subscription, and everybody likes stuff for free, they will pay for this just to help you get the data in and utilize their software. So this program originally expired um, earlier, but they just extended this, so we thought we'd add it back on. We now have to the middle of October approximately to make this happen. So if you're interested in that, please contact one of us or the stores. Be glad to help you more. But Granular has great YouTube videos on how to do this, and we certainly can be of assistance. But once again, you would get a free controller for your vehicle or free subscriptions for your wireless data, which everybody, like I said, likes free. So with that being said, we're going to try to do more of these. We're going to try to set one up for late fall. The next topics we're going to discuss is the receiver software update that's out now. Some of you may have heard that, but there's a mandatory software update coming out. It's scaring some people. Don't be alarmed. You do not need to worry about it through fall harvest. We'll discuss that in detail on the next event and how that handle that. It's not a problem. For you guys that have old ITC receivers, we're going to talk about their end of life and why that's happening and how to address it. We are also going to talk about the mobile app updates. Deere has done a lot of updating on their apps in the last few months. A lot of great features on there now, and a lot of customers don't understand them. As you harvest this fall and your data populates in there, there's going to be some things we're going to show you on how to navigate the apps and the value of them to you. And then once again, we're going to figure that the harvest maps are coming into your system. And if you have a granular account, we're going to show you how to utilize that and what that looks like in your My John Deere account and the value of that system. So not only do you get free JD Link, but you'll also get some profit maps to show you some zones in your fields that you may enjoy. So with that, we wanted to thank you for watching tonight. Like I said, if you have any questions, please type them into the comment page. That's our website there, as you well know, that you can email us with any more information. We can certainly, like I said, give you a call, organize a farm visit, and figure out exactly what you need. We know a lot of customers are in different areas of technology and just probably need assistance and information on how to move forward. We're going to try to continue these Facebook Live presentations on the technology and align them with the proper farming time of the year so it's relevant to your operation on your farm. So once again, thank you very much for being with us tonight. Hope you learned something. And if you need something, please feel free to contact us. Otherwise, everybody have a good evening and thanks for joining us.